the channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back. I know we are 1 hour and 20 minutes late. Not the most ideal time, but like I told you guys, my health isn't in the best condition. Yeah, I, I thought, why not? And like I always say, better late than never. We can always do better when it comes to our time management, and we have tried to do better in the past. But yeah, today is just one of those days when or where you sort of think to yourself that, hi LFC, how are you doing, my bro? Good to have you this beautiful morning. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're doing okay. So yeah, anyways, we are glad to be back so that we can speak more sports this beautiful morning. William Saliba did put pen to his contract. We'll be speaking about the UEFA Champions League. Jose Mourinho has returned to to Chelsea. We'll be speaking about that and what the implications are. We'll be speaking about Hugo Ekitike. He was speaking. Okay, that's good to know, LFC. He was speaking about why he chose Liverpool over the likes of Newcastle and Manchester United, who are all interested in his services and things like that. So yeah, we'll be talking about that and a lot more in today's broadcast ahead of crucial nights. And as far as the UEFA Champions League is concerned, teams want to bounce back from their weekend nightmares. Those that did well within the weekend, we want to sort of push on with those kinds of good results. So that kind of thing. Of course, for teams that do not have any European engagements, we are sorry, we may not find the time to discuss you last night, but at least last night we did tackle some of those problems when we discussed Manchester United and everything in that regard. But anyways, before I even take it any further, allow me to have our audio tested to make sure. But I think our audio is okay. LFC has pretty much responded to that, saying we are good. Anyways, all that notwithstanding, like I said, I thought, okay, well, let's start it with William Saliba, because this is the news we spoke about, I think, sometime last week, that he had agreed to sign a 5-year contract at Arsenal. We spoke what the implications are, what it means to Arsenal to yet keep a hold of another key player. And I was taken back to then there was an interview he did, and he said, yeah, it is true that many players growing up in France look forward to playing for Barcelona, Real Madrid, but for him it has always been Arsenal, and he's chosen to to stay at the club, signing a very long-term contract. That's a 5-year contract. Then also, it takes me back. There are also some reports coming out of the Arsenal fan base or the camp saying that Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba had spoken amongst themselves, as we know the most preferred, arguably one of the best defensive, pair in as far as the Premier League is concerned in present day, and they had decided to both stay at the club. I think it's sometimes I think we do not value enough the nature of friendships or relationships that players tend to conjure amongst themselves and how they sort of help influence their decisions. Because I look at it and I think to myself, we know that about a year or two ago, Saudi Pro League clubs wanted to sign Gabriel Magalhaes from Arsenal, and they were unable to do that because Arsenal are reluctant to sanction a deal. And you look back on it and think to yourself, if Arsenal had sanctioned that deal, wouldn't a player like William Saliba suddenly be inclined to leave? Maybe it would have influenced his decision on committing his future to the club. Maybe it would have been different. So you think about those things. And then, for example, you look at Declan Rice. You remember, we've had this one too many times of apparently Mikel Arteta speaking to his players about a certain player that he wants to target, specifically pertaining English players. He tends to speak players that are Arsenal players who feature at the England national team about certain players. We've had about that on on Noni Madueke. We've had that about on Ebeleche Eze and things like that. Not so much to validate his own decision in regards to what they want to do as a team, but to further pick certain insights on the individual that they want to sort of scope. You try and get insights as from somebody who thinks, from somebody who you think is a little more closer to that kind of player. So, for example, you could be asking Declan Rice about what do you think about Nani Madueke? How is he as a person? How does he report to training on time? How does he relate with other players? The chemistry, is he a friendly person? Is he a hostile? Is he a short-tempered guy? Those, small insights that are usually are off a pitch kind of things that then help to compose or to make the whole player in that regard or in that sense. So we know that William Saliba agreeing to sign a new contract, while entirely it does not lay upon his friendship or relationship or partnership that he has with Gabriel Magalhaes, it is still a factor, that cannot be ignored in that sense. So like I said, it's a very, very good move for Arsenal to secure his future. Well knowing that Real Madrid have always been circling around wanting to land his services. It's only 24 years of age, and when you look at it, it's a 5-year contract. By the time you were to go to the tail end of it, he will be about 29, and we know, or at least 28, for which Arsenal would have sort of make some good football out of him. You can only hope that he helps the Gunners win some pieces of silverware along that path. So, which is usually not that very, very easy, But yeah, we will take it forward. It is. That news did come out yesterday that he had eventually signed his contract, and what we are waiting for is official announcements after putting pen to paper on that 5-year deal. Anyways, a quick away from Arsenal, let's run to Liverpool, where Hugo Ekitike has been speaking to the media, and he was asked about his choice on joining Liverpool and not Newcastle or Manchester United, and he did say Liverpool are Premier League champions with great players and great history. I think it was a good choice for me, and that is why I chose Liverpool, as it was the best option, and I wanted to come. Then Ekitike also spoke about his card. He said, my card wasn't smart. I felt disappointed to watch the boys from home last Saturday. As I said, I apologize to everybody, all my teammates. It will not happen again. I move on now. So that was Hugo Ekitike speaking about his choice to choose Liverpool over other teams that were interested in him, but also further highlighting on the matter a very, I don't want to even call it controversial, very, stupid matter in regarding him getting that red card against Southampton. And like I've spoken on this forum before, that somebody did allude to the fact that maybe it was sort of a PR kind of a move for him to get that red card, make the news all about him because Alexander Isak had scored on the same day. Whereas that is a possibility. We know agents sometimes do these things or tell players to do these things to sort of gain the advantage. I do not want to think that that was the case, because he wouldn't have predicted that he was going to come on, get a yellow card, and then be rest assured that he was going to score, and then take off his shirt when he's already booked to get the red card. So I do not want to take that school of thought, even though I know that it can be a possibility. So then about the choice of Liverpool over Newcastle and Manchester United, and I mean, I think it's not rocket science for a player to choose Liverpool over those two or over any other Premier League side because they are the reigning champions. When you look at their recruitment that they've done over the summer, I mean, very, very good. You look at the brought in Milos Kakes, Jeremy Frimpong, Florian Wirtz, and Hugo Ekitike, of course. Additionally, Alexander Isak, Georgi Madashvili, the goalkeeper. You look at that and say, wow, they are trying to build something, and yet they were already a very, very decent side, or a very, very good side that went on to win the Premier League title. So yeah, you then in comparison, you look at Newcastle. They scrambled their way into the UEFA Champions League despite suffering defeat, a 1-0 defeat against Everton on the final day. The reason as why they were able to achieve UEFA Champions League football is because Chelsea managed to beat up against Nottingham Forest. I think on the final day. No, not particularly Nottingham Forest, but Aston Villa were beat by Manchester United at Old Trafford by 2-0. So, but if Aston Villa had won and then Newcastle had lost, then it could have been for the taking for Aston Villa to qualify for the UEFA Champions League this season. So you look at all that and think of it and say, well, yeah, Newcastle was that side. They were really struggling. Liverpool were champions. Then you draw comparisons to Manchester United. We know that Manchester United project is still in its early stages. In if we are speaking about the man in charge, that's Ruben Amorim. But also, when you look at the overall outlook of Manchester United, it's not one that gives you hope or courage that, yeah, let me go join them, things are suddenly going to pick up or click in place. For some of the players that have joined Manchester United, I think a player like Matthias Cunha, a player like Brani Mbumo, they were fans first of Manchester United before anything the club would promise them. And for them, the decision was easy in that sense, that do or die, I choose Manchester United. The same way fans say, yeah, my team is poor, but I'll support it anyway. I mean, we've been losing game out, but I still go and pay my, 70 million, sorry, 70 quid to go and watch them play, either away from home or at home. That if you're a Lay fan, that you still go to the pub and watch your team play. You'll still go to whatever venue it is you catch your games from. That maybe you sit and pay your subscription and still watch your team. So that kind of allegiance. So when you look at some of those things, for example, for a player like Brani Mbumo, who we know Newcastle were interested, apparently Arsenal, Chelsea, were all interested in his services, Tottenham Hotspurs, and he still chose Tottenham Hotspurs. He still chose Manchester United over anybody else. And he did tell those who care to listen that, it has to be Man United, or I would rather stay at Brentford. So that's simply that. But on in terms of meriting the decision for Hugo Tike, I think it was a simple decision. For as long as the contract terms, personal terms align, and there are no reservations on that, I think you know that Liverpool are they themselves in a transition of their own, and I think many people, that's what they forget. And this transition started in the final year or two of Jurgen Klopp, when they were losing all those players that had helped them win the UEFA Champions League title in 2019 and subsequently the league title in 2020. They were moving on from some of those players, moving out the likes of Fabinho, Sadio Mane, Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, and they were starting a process of a rebuild. Roberto Firmino, and he started on that, bringing in Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Wataru Endo, Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai. All those are players that were brought into a new project, and that sort of thing. And while Arne Slot walked through those doors and straight away won the league title, it just felt perfect and fitting, because they had already started off their transition. For example, if let's say Arne Slot had come 2 years earlier than he did, of course he has already been a year into the team, you get the feeling that maybe Liverpool's fortunes could have been different. So yeah, I do understand why he made that decision. And then quickly, for the red card, like I said, we all know it was stupid. Then Barcelona's sporting director, that's Anderson Deco, has been speaking to the media, and he spoke about Luis Diaz. He spoke about Nico Williams, and I'll read you some of these quotes as reported by Fabrizio Romano while he was speaking to Mundo Deportivo. He said, speaking about this summer, he said, this summer we tried to sign Luis Diaz, but it was too difficult. You always look for solutions, but sometimes deals do not happen. So we know that Luis Diaz ended up at Bayern Munich, although apparently his preferred choice would have been to join Barcelona, but we know that Barcelona's relationship and that of Liverpool was not wasn't anywhere its best because of some of the unworthy comments that Deco himself had said. And I say unworthy not in the sense of morality, but in the sense of how clubs are often reserved, almost forbidden in some form of unwritten rule when it pertains transfers, that you do not speak about a player that is not yet at your club. So he sort of broke that kind of rule, and he spoke about their interest in Luis Diaz publicly, as well as that of Marcus Rashford. And yeah, Liverpool were bound to be stubborn in that deal. Anyways, he also spoke about Nico Williams, and he said, we never chased Nico Williams. It was his agent who approached us multiple times, and not us going after him. Again, excuse me, Athletic Bilbao should ask his agent. He wasn't even exactly the profile we were looking for. You just have to listen. Now, I'll say two things about this. When he says it's the player's agent that approached him, I mean, it's not strange. Agents do all these things. They often do these things all the time. They look at their player and say, I think my player is ready for the next step. Let me approach a bigger team to see if they can take him on, or to see if they were to be interested. And if possible, we assess the conditions of a potential deal. So for me, that's not even, an issue. But when he said they were not even interested, or that they never chased him, I think he's not being entirely honest with that. I'd want to believe it this way, because when the news made the rounds about the possibility of Nico Williams going to Barcelona, amid this strong interest from Bayern Munich and things like that. You remember what Lamine Yamal did? Went to, I think, on his Instagram or one of his social media platforms and posted that photo on his stories of him and Nico Williams, as if to insinuate that, yeah, the news that was coming out was really, really credible, that Nico Williams was being linked with a potential move to Barcelona. Now, yes, the agent may have approached Barcelona, but Barcelona may have had some form of interest or level of interest to be even willing to listen to those offers or approaches. Because if, for example, let's say you're an agent to let's say to who? To Thibaut Courtois, and then you approach Arsenal with a proposal that they sign Thibaut Courtois, Arsenal may quickly say, no, we're not interested. We have Kepa Arrizabalaga as a number 2 goalkeeper. We have David Raya. We're not looking to, to recruit another. So it would be as blatant as that. But because Barcelona were in the market for, a left-sided winger, we know that they sat down and listened to those approaches, and but because Athletic Bilbao made it difficult, because they did even, approach La Liga officials wondering how Barcelona were going to be able to make those kinds of deals, given their financial, situation and wage bill and whatever the other modalities are and things like that. So, which perhaps deterred Barcelona's interest, So I think for the case of Barcelona and Nico Williams, the interest was there for Barcelona. Maybe it wasn't as strong in the sense that he wasn't their number 1 priority on the list. That maybe Luis Diaz was ahead of him, and possibly him in number 2, and then Marcus Rashford in that sort of sense. But when his agent approached them, they listened. Anyways, I will leave that at that. Then they also spoke about Frankie de Jong, and he says, I see Frankie de Jong close to signing a new contract. We see him as a crucial player for our project. We are talking. I'm confident. He told Mundo Deportivo. Again, this is a player 2 years ago, or I think, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was being literally almost being forced out of Barcelona. And the reason as to why he never got that move, because Manchester United were really, really interested when they brought in Eric Ten Hag. They wanted to sign Frankie de Jong. And we know he's a very, very good, number 8 of a midfielder, very, very astute midfielder. But the player refused. He said he was happy at Barcelona. They wanted him to take a pay cut. He was refusing and things like that. And he ended up staying. And ever since then, he's been a very, very good servant. So rewarding him with a new contract would be one that would be very, very understandable. Anyways, Away from that, let's run to the UEFA Champions League because it does get underway today. We go into match day 2 of the UEFA Champions League. In the early kickoffs, remember these days we have UEFA Champions League early kickoffs that come at 7:45 p.m. East African time. Atlanta will be up against Club Braga. Then Kairati Almaty will be up against Real Madrid. Then at 10 p.m., Atletico de Madrid will be up against Eintracht Frankfurt. Bodo Glimt will take on Tottenham Hotspur. Chelsea will be up against Benfica. Galatasaray will be up against Liverpool, while Inter will take on Slavia Praha. Olympic Marseille will be up against Ajax, while Pafos will welcome Bayern Munich. And then in the Spanish La Liga, there should be a game, one that I thought should have taken place possibly yesterday, but that game will be between Valencia against Real Oviedo. Of course, the English Championship will also have its own games played, but I wanted us to speak about that game between Chelsea and Benfica because of the managerial swaps that have happened at Benfica ever since their last game in the UEFA Champions League. We know that they came into the UEFA Champions League through the qualifiers, and through those qualifiers, they knocked out Fenerbahce, where Jose Mourinho was the then head coach or manager at Fenerbahce. Now, when they knocked Fenerbahce out, I think it was a 1-0 aggregate score. They then Fenerbahce sacked Jose Mourinho, then came into the UEFA Champions League. That's for Benfica. And on match day 1, they were up against Qarabag. They led that game by 2-0, and then Qarabag came from behind to beat them by 3-2, which led to the sacking of Bruno Lage. For those of you that can't remember, he did manage Wolverhampton Wanderers at some point in time before he was shown the exit, and then Gary O'Neill took on as an interim before he was given the full role, had it for like a season, and then I think in his second season, he got sacked, which was last season, and then they brought in Vitor Pereira. That's at Wolverhampton Wanderers. But anyways, so you had Bruno Lage sacked and then replaced by Jose Mourinho, who started his coaching career at Benfica before moving on to clubs like FC Porto, before I think going to Barcelona, where he was an interpreter while there. So, and those kinds of things. So he does get to return to Stamford Bridge, in the stewardship of a whole new team in Benfica. And he did say to the media yesterday, while speaking in a pre-match press conference, that I feel at home here, but I'm not a blue anymore. I am a red now, and I want to win. That's Jose Mourinho for you. Typical Jose Mourinho. Anyway, nothing that you wouldn't expect from any manager whatsoever. In terms of what will happen on the pitch, I think Chelsea will have to be alive to the goal threat of Pavlidis, one of those big goal scorers for that Benfica side. But Chelsea, again, Enzo Maresca also did face the media. They've not had good performances in recent times, particularly across all competitions. They kickstarted their UEFA Champions League campaign with a 3-1 sort of loss against Bayern Munich in their last outing. Hurricane, I think, scored a brace in that one. So yeah, but I think what Chelsea need to fix, particularly in my opinion, is the defensive partnership between those centre backs. Who is it going to be? Is it Trevor Chalobah and Tosin Aderabio, or Trevor Chalobah and Wesley Fofana, or because we know Levi Colwill is absent, is it going to be Trevor Chalobah and Joel Hato? Who is it going to be? Because I get the feeling that he's failed to nail that down, because he keeps on switching that every now and then. And we're talking about Trevor Chalobah, who received a red card in their 3-1 loss to Brighton over the weekend, while when we won things back a week earlier, they had received a red card for Robert Sanchez. All that notwithstanding, I think one of the hardest things to predict when it comes to a Chelsea lineup is what the defensive partnership is going to be. In regards to the right-left, for me, that's got to be, for as long as he's fit, it has to be Ray James to start, Marco Correa on the other side. Of course, Joel Hato is yet to fully settle in, but it could be Malo Gusto. at right back. So midfield, unless but Chelsea do have some injury worries to contend with. So you may get to see Malo Gusto, Trevor Chalobah, and Benoit Badiashile, and this is according to a probable lineup alongside Marco Correa, then Romeo Lavia, partnering Enzo Fernandez, Willian Estava, Pedro Neto, Facundo Benanote, and Tariq George. Remember, they have injuries. Apparently, Tosin Adrabio has a calf injury. Wesley Fofana suffered a concussion. Cole Palmer is struggling with a groin. A groin. Then you have Andres Santos, who suffered a knock. But usually players recover from those. We know Liam Delap is out for quite some time. Dario Esugo is another that has a thigh injury. Joao Pedro struggles with a muscle injury, while Moises Caicedo has a knock, and then Levi Colwill has an anterior cruciate ligament injury, while for Mukalo Modric, it's for personal terms or personal reasons. Anyways, so with all that in mind, I think that's one too many players for Chelsea to have out injured, if indeed none of them is going to make it to the squad. About last year, we're talking about Chelsea with the largest squad of players, and they still have a very, very large squad. But you look at it this way, that's just one too many injuries for a team to have. I mean, we're talking about what, 8 injuries or so, and majority of these are starters. Cole Palmer, Joao Pedro, Liam Delap, Moises Caicedo, all those are starters that you're missing through injury. So I think Chelsea will struggle in this game if the probable lineup does come out to be what it will be tonight. I think they will struggle against this Benfica side. They can be very, very strong. We know that Jose Mourinho is going to we know how he drills his players about defending, about defending. We know he can command his team to be very, very defensively solid. They come, I think, in this particular fixture on the back of beating up against Gil Vicente by 2-1. So let's wait and see what they will bring to the table. Chelsea lost their game against Brighton, so they will need to recover from that loss. The advantage for Chelsea, it's a home game, but also they wouldn't want to lose 2 on the spin in the UEFA Champions League. No, do Benfica want to lose 2 on the spin? Would a draw serve both sides? Maybe, but at least one of them would want to win the fixture. But we'll wait and see. I'm not so sold and convinced about Chelsea, but I could go for a 2-2 draw. Yeah. Then the other fixture will be between Galatasaray and Liverpool. Galatasaray being one of those intimidating, away fixtures that you can't play in the UEFA Champions League. So Liverpool will have to quickly dust themselves off that poor display or performance that they did have over the weekend against Crystal Palace, and make sure that they rise to the occasion on this one. We know that they opened their UEFA Champions League campaign with a 3-2 victory over Atletico de Madrid, an Atletico Madrid side that over the weekend thumped Real Madrid 5-2. Now, they needed a late winner, thanks to a header from Virgil van Dijk to win that game for them. Florian Wirtz is still struggling. I think he's not had the perfect start to his Liverpool career. They've tested him in multiple positions, playing behind the striker as a number 10, and also over the weekend as the left winger. And it's not yet worked out well. But given... So for me, if I'm like I said over the weekend, I do not think I'll change my perception on this one. If I'm Arne Slot, I'm going for my traditional 3. Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai, and Alexis McAllister. Cody Gakpo, Salah, Hugo Ekitike to lead the lines, or Alexander Isak. But do not be surprised if you see Alson Ramsey-Baker, Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Jeremy Frimpong, Ande Robertson, Curtis Jones, Ryan Gravenberch, Cody Gakpo, Fran Witz, Mo Salah, and Hugo Ekitike. You know, or maybe you play Ekitike to the left wing and have Alexander Isak leading the line. But just don't play there, Florian Wirtz. Then on the side of Galatasaray, they do have some players with some good experience. You remember Mario Lemina, formerly at Wolverhampton Wanderers. You remember Lucas Torreira, formerly at Arsenal. They are all at Galatasaray. Then Yunus Akan. Then Ilkay Gundogan is still within that team. You remember Leroy Sané, formerly at Manchester City and Bayern Munich. They are all at this Galatasaray side. You remember Mauro Icardi, Davidson Sanchez. You remember him at Tottenham Hotspur. He's in that centre back for this Galatasaray side. So it's one of those games that I'll be looking forward to watch. And I see if Lucas Torreira still has it, if Mario Lemina still has it, if Ilkay Gundogan can still make things happen as well as Leroy Sané. But yeah, let's wait and see. Liverpool in the UEFA Champions League can mean to be a very different beast. But like I said, their start to the Premier League season, although it looks decent, they just concede one too many times. And I think it could be a 2-1 victory for Liverpool. That will be my prediction. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, LFC, and everybody that has been part of today's morning's podcast. Tomorrow we'll do better to come a bit early. For those of you that caught our broadcast last night, I would not take your time for granted. For those of you that watched this podcast long after we made them, I would not take your love and support for granted. So thank you so much. I'll catch you guys next time. Have yourselves a blessed day, and bye-bye for now.